Welcome back to Rock Guitar Confidential with Scott and Ryan. On today's episode, a dose of optimism. The children are our future. Hand them a guitar and let them show the way. Next.
I mean, it can only be a matter of time between now and the time the album actually comes out. If you got 5 song titles, I mean,
Right. So
what
that's
else do you
5
need?
song titles, every decade.
Yeah,
Right?
Wait, no, that's one about every 3 years. He gets 1 song title. It's like,
It creates the intrigue, like who's going to die first, me or King Diamond?
yeah, well, that's up in the air now. Who knows? You know what I
Right,
mean?
it
It's
totally
like-
is.
And then what's funny, he kept talking about this is a trilogy. This album's a trilogy. It's like with three.
man.
Just get the one, dude. Let's not worry about trilogies. Let's get this one out. My God.
You know what? Like among the many things that George Lucas has fucked up in pop culture, like one of
Hey, I'm not gonna.
One of them-
I'm gonna
yeah.
just stand aside on that one.
So one of them
all my contempt for what Ryan's about
okay,
to say.
I'm gonna tell you right now, it's George Lucas's fault that everything has to have a fucking prequel.
I don't think that's true.
Absolutely, it is.
Nah,
He's the guy who
dude.
started the whole prequel nonsense.
You can point that finger of blame at J.R.R. Tolkien. Because Tolkien had The Hobbit, which guess what? Was a prequel to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which came after, and this is in the 1930s. So, I mean, we're talking...
Wait, hang on. Wait, didn't he? Wait, he didn't write The Hobbit first.
He wrote The Hobbit first, yes.
So The Hobbit is
But
the
that's
first part.
That's a
and so
prequel
then-
to The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, but he wrote The Hobbit first, so Lord of the Rings is the sequel to The Hobbit.
But in the story, it's a prequel.
But that's irrelevant. That's irrelevant because he wrote The Hobbit first, and then he wrote a sequel to The Hobbit, which was Lord of the Rings.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. He finished The Lord of the Rings after he wrote the Hobbit, but it wasn't like he had only thought of it after he did The Hobbit. Does that make sense? So he knew the story in his head. He just wrote the little childish...
Okay,
So-
come on. No.
All I'm saying is, if you're going
I'm
to
not
point a finger of
accepting this
blame,
argument.
you can go 40 years earlier in
No.
the future and blame
No,
J.R.R.
no,
Tolkien.
no.
Or,
No,
you know,
no.
you can kind of go back even further and to the poetic, you know, the epic poems of ancient Greece and Norway and even China and Japan. You know, that's not...
Yeah, okay, so that's super
Star Wars is in the
culturally
tradition
relevant.
of the epic poetry. It's
No,
in,
as it pertains to current culture, and again, I'm rejecting your argument on Tolkien because, again, The Hobbit comes first, and then you
But
read the
it's
sequel.
actually literally a prequel, though. It literally is a prequel.
No, but it wasn't written after the original work to add to the lore of the story.
No, I don't.
That would make it a prequel.
I feel like you're splitting hairs on that one. to
I'm
be
not
honest with you.
splitting hairs at all. So there should have been the original 3 child-free Star Wars films, and then they should have made the next 3 Star Wars films. We didn't need the Phantom Menace and the garbage prequel series.
Okay.
When you tell me a story, I want to then hear what happens next.
Yeah, but they never told the Clone Wars story. That's why they did the prequel series.
Yeah, but they don't need to.
Yeah,
You can-
it's interesting, and people love the
See-
world, so that's why they did that, because people want to see the world.
because
You know?
I preferred you. So
I know, but you're substituting your taste for everybody else.
I preferred using this thing that
Those
I
three
developed.
prequel movies made well over $3 billion combined. So,
But that doesn't- and
that
so-
just tells
right.
you that your taste is valid and you have every right to it. But there's a lot of other people who don't agree with you. On that.
Because those people are not critical thinkers. They just want.
Hey, I'm a fan of the prequel. What are you trying to say?
They just want heaping spoonfuls of nostalgia,
Nah, I
like
wanna see
spoon
awesome
fed
lightsaber
into their
fights, man.
tummy.
That's the-
Well, you could have had awesome lightsaber fights.
But we didn't have awesome lightsaber fights in the original trilogy. We had one decent one at the end of Return of the Jedi. That's the only like good lightsaber fight in the entire original
Well,
trilogy.
okay, so you're saying the other lightsaber fights were not good.
We got 3 badass ones in the prequel.
Yeah,
trilogy.
and that's all you need.
And then we also got several badass ones in the sequel.
And
trilogy.
you got you got better acting, and you got a less clunky script.
Star Wars is mythology, though. It's not like a.
That's
other
fine.
stories,
Mythology doesn't need to insult my intelligence.
It doesn't. Here's the thing, though. Those prequels were not made for you or me at that time.
Clearly not.
They were made for people who were like 12. That's who they're made for.
Dude, I was even smarter than that when I was 12.
Well, that's because you're an anomaly, Ryan. That's for sure. But that being said, that for other people, though, like I talked to people who now are in their mid-20s and stuff, who they love that's their favorite Star Wars is the prequels.
Well, they were exposed to it'd be like it's just like the people who are fooled into thinking that Nirvana is music.
Well,
right?
Nirvana, I'll give Nirvana this. They are music. It's just not great music. It's not an
Or
example
even
of,
good.
Yeah, exactly. It's not odd. I
Right,
don't understand
so-
the like deification of Nirvana, like why they're now
Or
Led
the
Zeppelin, Van Halen, AC/DC, Nirvana, like they're all the same. No, they're not.
Right, and like that's the same with the Star Wars prequels.
Well,
no, they aren't. They're they're not good.
Apples and oranges are not alike. Man.
They are not good. Well, I mean, look, if either the apples or the oranges, if one of the two is rotten, then I'm just going to prefer the other one.
Here's the question, though. Do you think that King Diamond's just blowing smoke? Is there ever going to be another album? Is there going to be do you think there's any chance he does a trilogy of albums?
I think, and I do have
all
opinions on this,
possible?
but let me finish my dig on George Lucas.
Okay, fine.
It's
I
all-
thought
it's-
you'd already done the.
No, I just need to complete
you
my
did
thought.
the shit on the head, and then I thought one more fart, and then you're gonna walk away.
Yes, and now just like the final coup de grace, just right in the mouth. So
But you're shitting in his mouth in this scenario. There's places in Thailand where you pay extra for that.
I was gonna say, man, I'm sure there's some like German and Japanese mythology. Anyway, so, man. Okay, so trilogies. So now everything has to get a stupid ass prequel, and everything has to be a stupid ass trilogy. It doesn't need to be a trilogy. It doesn't need to get a prequel,
So they're
right?
saying
If you make
quadrilogy, they should think four
if you make
instead of three.
a thing, then I want to happen. So like I didn't need to get all the exposition on the Clone Wars, whatever. I have this thing called an imagination, and I could fill in backstory. I didn't need to see the whole Anakin. I mean, I'm glad he got his arm and his legs cut off. That was rad because
That's one of the greatest fights I've ever seen, man. That fight between him and Obi-Wan, that's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm glad Anakin got fucked up because like he deserved it for all of the bad dialogue reading he had done in
Well, you
the
should blame
previous
George
two
Lucas for the
movies.
dialogue, as
I do blame George Lucas for that, right? I blame George Lucas for Anakin, you're breaking my heart.
you know it though.
That was fucking awful.
It's because I'm so in love with you.
It just tells. Yeah, it
No, I'm not going to
treats the
sit here and
audience like
pretend
they're
like
idiots.
the dialogue is all great. It's not all terrible, but it's not great either all the time.
I mean, there aren't moments that are that terrible in the original.
Ewan McGregor
trilogy.
actually does really good with what
Ewan?
he's given. Ewan.
Yes,
Yeah.
Ewan.
His I don't care. Ewan, the guy. Yeah. Anyway, the guy played Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
He did really well with everything they gave. And
So-
Liam Neeson too, and it did really well with everything they gave him in the first movie too.
Yeah.
I thought that those guys were able to like really own their characters, and it felt real and grounded.
Yep.
I think that Hayden Christensen probably needed a little bit more coaching than he got from the director. That's like, okay,
and a better script.
well, here's a line. All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't think he's like, well, I want you to be a little bit more. This is what he's going on inside. I don't think Lucas is that guy.
And the best thing about Hayden Christensen is that he's not that stupid kid that was in Phantom Menace, like saying yippee in a
If
pod
you've seen
racer.
him in Ahsoka season 1 or Obi-Wan, you've seen that he actually has really grown as an actor too. He's actually gotten a lot better.
Well, I mean, I watched Obi-Wan, and it was hard to pay attention to what was going on, like in between vomiting, and just wishing
Did you
that.
see Ahsoka season 2 or season 1? I'm sorry.
No, Obi-Wan was just such an offense to my brain. I
enjoyed Obi-Wan. I thought it was
I'm
good.
just like, I'm done. I can't. Like
You don't like kids in stories though. That's the thing.
No. So Star Wars called me an idiot too many times. I just can't. And honestly, I don't think that like kids are that stupid.
No, they're
Right.
not. But it was. I don't know. I thought the relationship between Leia and Obi-Wan was actually pretty endearing in that. I thought it was great, and the
Except
action
for the
was
part,
spectacular.
except for the part where Leia was a 6-year-old.
Well, no, Leia was a 6-year-old at some point. I mean, that's
Yeah, but I don't want to know what she was up to. Just like wait until she becomes like a full-fledged human being at like 10 or 11.
Oh my gosh!
I don't
could
know.
not disagree with you more. on
And
that.
I mean her performance is so cringy.
Wait, isn't she in like a horror movie? That same actress?
And it was terrible,
what's
dude.
the- what
Yeah,
was it, like
it was Boogeyman. Yep,
Is
I
that what it
watched
was?
it.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
I can't. That particular.
I remember
child
seeing like,
actress,
oh, that's the kid from Obi-Wan. I remember seeing her. Yeah.
Yeah, she can't act, and I don't know why she's getting roles. And I mean, she's just bad at acting. She's like the Post Malone of acting. I don't know why
Well,
she's
Post Malone's
acting.
bad at everything. That gets back to the real story, though.
Yes, so-
okay, finish your thought on Lucas. I want to know what you think about the trilogy from King Diamond.
So now I'm gonna tie it all together. So the reason I'm taking it so personally is that I want a new King Diamond
Me
album.
too.
God damn it, right?
Me too, man.
And I'm sure King Diamond wouldn't be making a trilogy if there weren't the stupid trilogy trend that George Lucas set
I
off.
don't know.
Everything does not need to be a trilogy.
I don't know
folks.
why, if you can't even get the first album done, we're even talking about the next two albums. Like,
Then don't even talk about a trilogy. Just
that's
make
what
the
I'm
next
saying.
album. No,
Just
I
make the
agree.
next album. I agree. Like, let's hope, dude. We've been waiting 10 years for this.
Hey, I've got an idea.
I don't want you like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put everything aside until the trilogy's finished. Like,
Dude,
it's gonna
just
be
make
20 years.
Dude, just make it one album and then the plot occurs in 3 acts. It doesn't need to be a trilogy anyway. So I think they're gonna. I think.
But do you think there's any chance in hell that the first album gets released? And if so, is there any prayer of getting the other 2 albums?
I mean, of course, there's a prayer of the other 2 albums. Yeah, I mean,
Really? I mean, he's 65 years old or something like that. I mean, he's gonna.
Yeah, well, you know,
that means easily it's gonna be another 10 years before. I mean,
you know, well, maybe not. Maybe they're working on everything like simultaneously. Like we don't know where they are actually.
Well, I know they're not done with the first album yet, and they're still working on lyrics for the first album. So
you know, I don't know. I mean, but you know, but Lord Satan willing, we'll get at least a new album in the next 12 months. You know, and I guess they've got like some European tour dates and stuff. So
and I guess they're dropping another Merciful Fate album too. So
yeah, so
you know, busy as hell, but it's just like I don't know. I've been hearing about this thing for so long that it reminds me of like Chinese Democracy. It's like, yeah, it's coming. We're gonna make this album.
Yeah,
it's gonna come out. You know
unlike
what I mean?
Chinese Democracy, a new King Diamond album won't suck.
No, I agree with that, but it's like
Yeah.
I'm not even referring to the quality of the music. I'm just saying like the idea that we've been hearing about this for 10 years. This thing's gonna happen.
Well,
You know what I mean?
and I think it's a pretty clear indicator that you can't make money selling music anymore, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it's great that. I think the odds are better that I'll get to go see King Diamond in San Francisco again, either next year or the year after.
Yeah,
Than
either with
get a
Merciful
new,
or with King Diamond.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Then get another King Diamond or Merciful Fate album because King Diamond's making more money.
Well, he's making
touring.
money. Period.
Right.
It's actually costing him money to make the album.
Yeah. No, good
Yeah,
point.
you know what I
Totally.
mean?
Yeah,
So-
it cost them money to make the album,
Yeah.
but you know,
to give it to the record label that they have, who's gonna just take 75% whatever it makes, if it makes anything. You know what I mean?
right now at a certain, I think King Diamond may be at that point where they'll need the excitement of a new album to sell out the next show.
Because this whole show is based on the album or whatever.
Right. You know, the problem
for him, it's very specific because he's a theatrical rock artist.
That's right. So the problem with the last tour is that, you know, they'd introduce a new song from the upcoming King Diamond album, but I don't know what the plot of the album is, and I don't know who these characters are, right? Like
yeah. So you can't really, you're like, okay, I guess this is a cool song, but I don't understand where this is going. Yeah.
Right, yeah. When they open with Welcome Home, or like, you know, when he wheels Grandma out in the wheelchair, like, I know what's up. There's Grandma. Watch out. She's gonna summon some demons and kill your stupid sister. Yeah, right. Yeah. Or you know, when he opens with the Black Horseman, the first track off of Abigail, right? He pulls out the vampire baby and then stabs the baby with like the cross, and then throws the stupid baby in the coffin, and it's awesome. Yeah.
That sounds very
Totally
multi-generational appeal there.
But you know that's Abigail the vampire baby, and you know he's sticking her to the coffin with 7 silver spikes, so she may never rise and do evil again.
Yeah. But so the new one, I mean, I think everyone kind of vaguely knows it's about like mental institution in like the 1920s or whatever.
Right.
But that's that's as far as it goes, because there's been 3 songs, right? Is it Spider Lily, Masquerade Madness, and what was the other one? There's one other one.
Dude, I'm a bad fan because I don't even remember I think it's called electroshock therapy or something like that. Yeah.
So they've released like 3 songs. So I mean.
Yeah, and I mean the video for Spider Lily's cool. You know, King Diamond's got like this dead skin mask thing going on, which is, I mean, because like everything is better with a dead skin mask.
Yeah, that's what Slayer thinks.
Right,
for
totally,
sure. I mean,
absolutely. You know what I mean? It worked for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, so.
Well, how many of those sequels do they have? Come on.
Well, I said, I'm fine with sequels. I just don't want prequels. And
well, actually, there's been prequels to that too.
So and it is not as good as either the Marcus Nispel 2004 remake.
Wow,
where,
you really know your Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You bet I do, because I like stuff that doesn't suck. And,
I'll just have to take your word on this. I've never seen that.
Oh, dude. Okay, so the one remake, but I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a mixed bag of.
I mean, there's so much complexity and nuance to the Chainsaw Massacre.
It's a mixed bag of flesh. Yeah, there is actually. It's a total metaphor.
Sometimes he cuts off their arms with the chainsaw. Sometimes it's their head. Sometimes it's the
Yes. It's a metaphor for the death of industrial like middle America.
Oh, Okay.
Right? You know, you've got these like hippies driving through Texas to, you know, get high and fuck and, you know, have, you know, a picnic or whatever in their hippie van.
Wow, that's an interesting combination of things.
You know, like it's what that, you know,
It's what hippies do. Okay.
doing what young people do, right? And, you know, having fun and whatever, right? And then they pull into this little
So
town in
whatever you
Texas.
watch out for. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, and so like one of the first things that so they pick up the hitchhiker, and one of the first thing the hitchhiker talks about is like how you're, you know, how you put down a cow with the air gun in the slaughterhouse, you know, and you know that does them real good, right? You know, it's way better than the machines they use now. So like clearly that line is telling you that, you know, all of these people have their jobs and their livelihoods have been displaced by automation.
Oh, okay.
Right, and that's what turns them into a bunch of like violent inbred cannibals, right?
But
you know, very,
classic story.
very similar to what's happening in our country today.
So you're tying it all together is what you're saying.
Absolutely. So anyway, so yes, is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre a nuanced, you know, masterpiece? Why, yes, Scott. Yes, Scott, it is.
Yes.
And you know what's not? The Phantom Menace.
Well, it's got some. There's the things that it does. There's heights it reaches that can only be touched by what Star Wars does. So,
And Leatherface achieved it. Leatherface did with a chainsaw what the lightsaber
see, this is
could
what's
not.
so great. You and I could not come in from more opposing spots on this, and yet I respect your point of view.
I
And
respect
ask
your
for the
point of
same,
view too.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm sorry, I'm so spicy today.
No, it's all right.
I'm all fired up.
I'm not a horror guy, as is well established, so it's all good. I want you to be happy though, so I'm glad that you find stuff that you enjoy. You know what I
totally.
mean? That's the thing that makes me happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And a new King Diamond album would make me happy, but you know,
and this is where the common ground is. That would make me happy too.
yes, and at this point, I'm just kind of resigned to, you know what? I'm just grateful that I'm getting like King Diamond in my life somehow.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? Because, you know, look, honestly, I would like if it were if a new album is what it takes for the next King Diamond show I go to be sold out, because it wasn't at the Fox Theater this last year in Oakland.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, they could cancel a few shows on that tour, like 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah, and who knows why? I mean, King Diamond might have been sick.
Yeah. I had heard it was soft ticket sales.
Was it soft tickets? Yeah.
And I think that makes sense because King Diamond is such a niche thing. You know what I mean? There's like the hardcore fans who are like way into it, but there's people who are sort of like vaguely curious, but then there's not like this, you know, casual fan is like, well, I'll just go check it out, because it feels kind of like an inside, kind of like almost like a Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of thing, where like you have to kind of be into that, like in for a penny, in for a pound. I think some people are kind of put off by that. They're more casuals, you know what I mean? And,
right. I mean, yeah, you're right. And again, you know, King didn't tour for a long time and then started touring like big time about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, the health issues, right? That kind of thing. Didn't he have like a heart attack or something like that?
Yeah, he had to have open heart surgery.
Yeah.
And I mean, dude, what a metal surgery to have, right? Yeah. So
absolutely.
The most metal surgery.
Now, speaking of hope for the future, we actually this is something we're going to kind of go against brands. We usually talk about, you know, we just go out and say everything sucks and this thing's bullshit. It's all, you know, shitting and pissing on everything that's new. But you know, there's a lot of reason for hope when it comes to the guitar world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, welcome to Rock Guitar Confidential.
Yeah, that's right.
Scott and Ryan, thank you for listening.
Absolutely.
You know, everything from, you know, sales for guitars going up, anecdotally, us noticing a big uptick in like younger people being interested in music, looking at rock charts on Spotify actually getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's all reason for optimism. And then you, Ryan, just had a recent thing that you did that was actually really kind of hopefully like the impetus for this optimism, which is you spoke at a high school, right?
Yeah, I'm super stoked. So a big shout out to the students at Roseville High School and their awesome teacher, David Albertson, invited me and Mike Snyder, the vice president of Skips, to speak to 3 of his guitar classes.
And that's really important, because if the president of Skips dies, he becomes president, right? That's how it works.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. So you know, I had a 2-point message to the kids.
How far away from you on the succession scale? How many people have to die tragically in a plane crash for Ryan to become president of Skips?
Ryan never becomes president of Skips. But
it's got to be at some point. Like if everybody down to like this 30th person dies, then Ryan, you're next, man.
But I am happy to, you know, help orchestrate, you know, help coordinate our performance programs, right?
That's very cool. Very awesome.
You know, so in particular, we've got something going on called Spotlight Series, where we put young people into bands, and you learn a couple cover songs over the course of 5 weeks, and then you get a couple of rehearsals at Skips with one of our instructors. Who is a professional full-time musician, right?
Yep.
Not someone part-time earning minimum wage.
Yeah.
And then you get to perform in front of your friends and family on, and this time our performance is going to be June 22nd at Skips Music.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so, we've got the
Well, it
awesome...
gives people a chance to know what it's like if you've never done played in a band and perform and be on stage. And so that's actually a really good opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that the feedback I'm getting from the participants, from the kids, is that they're just excited to meet each other.
Yeah, that's true. Other musicians,
Yeah.
that's actually shockingly difficult when you're a young musician, especially if you're depending on where you live. It could be really, really difficult. There's not too many other people in your school who play guitar or play drum. I mean, my God, someone who plays drums, bass, and guitar to have a band, that's like
Right.
an unachievable dream for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Dude, and even if you're, I know everyone's online now, so you could get on your Instagram or whatever, but still, that that still doesn't necessarily put you in touch with other people.
And
to
that's
play
the
with.
hard part, because it's very difficult for people to go from like we're virtual friends to let's get together and jam.
Yeah.
That's not an easy like Rubicon to cross for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Totally. I think back to, being 13 and 14. And I mean, there was one kid on my street who played drums, and I would walk down the street and we would play Harvester of Sorrow by Metallica for like hours on end.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that was the one thing we could get ourselves rounded up to play correctly.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But, you don't have a job, you don't have a car.
Yeah, it makes the options pretty light.
Right, yeah. I mean, so, your options are pretty limited,
Yeah.
right? And these days, even if you're 15 or 16, you probably don't have a job or a car.
Or 17 or 18.
or even 19 or 20 or 21.
Well, 2021, you're probably about your, third year, fourth year junior at college.
Right, so still no job, no car.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Wait, we're supposed to be optimistic. Yeah, we're starting to shit on the young generation.
I know.
You guys are wonderful. We slipped into old habits. My bad.
So Spotlight series is for 18 and younger, right? And so the feedback I'm getting from the participants is that they're super excited to not just meet the people in their band, but they're excited to meet the people that are in the other bands.
Yep.
Right? And they're going to commingle. We'll do other rounds with different songs, right? That they get to choose, right? So we're not forcing them to play tunes they don't want to play, right? We've got one Beatles band, but that's because the kids wanted to play the Beatles, not because I know, but not because we're forcing them, right?
I know, you got to help them, but
we've got one band that's playing a song from a modern band that you can't buy the sheet music for it, right?
Yeah.
So we're learning the song on our own, at our lessons.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
And they work with their instructors, leading up to the rehearsals.
Sure.
Either way, but
so someone's running the rehearsals. And that's
yeah,
good.
but we're not restricted to just playing the same old set list of classic rock tunes with Spotlight series, right?
Yeah.
The kids get a lot more input on what songs they can play, right?
Yeah. Sorry,
unlike any perceived alternatives that are out there.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. That's true. I mean, that's true. I know. What's so cool about that, though, and one of the things I think is really a reason for optimism about that is this. One of the big problems that's happening in live music, at least in this area, but I assume it's in most areas. I mean, I know about LA and San Francisco and all the other nearby areas, is that there's not a lot of like smaller music venues for live bands. That there's like places that you can go play covers. They're like kind of bars, right? But there's not like a club. Like back when we were kids starting to play clubs, there's like a bunch of clubs you can go play. They're like 200, 300 seat people.
Yep.
Now I see there's like a handful of little like, hole in the wall places, and then there's like almost like lounges that have like lounge kind of music, and then there's like the mid-size, like starting like 1,500 and up, that's like 3,000 venues, and then you have like the casinos, which are like 7,000, and then you have like the Golden One Center, which is like 20,000.
Right.
It's not really that 200, 300 seat kind of club thing anymore. It's like you have to start at like 1,500, or you have like you can fit 50 people.
Yeah. How many? What do you think? What do you think the capacity of Ace of Spades?
That's
is?
probably about 2,500, I would say.
2,500.
Yeah,
that
and
sounds
then
about
there's
right.
a new place. Was it like was it Channel 24 or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
That's
has that
also
opened
like
yet?
That's like just open. It's like a 1,500, 1,600 seat place. So it's
right.
pretty big. I mean, it's like it's similar in size to Ace of
We'll
Spades.
have to keep an eye on there, and
But that's
see
not
if
a place
someone-
that you're going to go, take your new original band and go work out your songs.
Right,
there.
right,
That's
right,
not
right.
that.
Yep,
That's
yep.
a place that like the bands who can't play, at the places like the casinos or play at like Golden One are going to go play those places.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that,
I'm curious to see what kind of acts come through that venue.
The reason I'm saying that's a reason for optimism is this: if these younger bands can start playing and drawing an audience of some sort, that's going to get the notice of people. They're not going to be able to play like the 1,500, 2,000 seat place, but maybe they can get really good turnouts at the really, really small places.
Yeah.
And then that might kick off the thought of, hey, maybe we need something that's more of a mid in between the fits maybe 50 to 100 people in like the 1,500 seat place. We can get someplace that maybe has capacity of 350, 400 people, you know, like we had forever, and then now went away after COVID.
Right.
So that is reason for optimism, in my opinion, because if those venues come back, that's going to have a lot more opportunity for all the other bands. That's one of the things that sucks, is that when you and I were kids, Sacramento had a very thriving music scene, and it wasn't the covers; it was a bunch of original bands, you know, and that really lasted well into the 90s. But now it's really there's clubs you can technically go play at, but there's not like a scene. Like nobody's like going out on a Friday or Saturday just to see the bands. That's not happening anymore. And you know, I think if our generation is going to say, it's going to not ever happen again. But I'm hoping that the 20, 22, 23, 24 year olds can bring out people to those and then start having that scene thrive again. That'd be kind of a cool thing.
You know, I know there's Cafe Colonial downtown where like the indie rockers, I guess, or the pop punk indie rock.
Yeah,
you know, I guess that's that's kind of a scene as far as I can tell.
Yeah,
right?
It's kind of. But what's funny about those kinds of scenes,
you know, looking up from my old man grave, it seems like that's a scene.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think that's really important that that's happening, because you know, everything has kind of gotten so. Everybody's just, our lives have gotten isolated. We're isolated from each other. Like the way we live our life is very, you know, like once removed, like interactions. It's not like you're actually interacting. So the idea of 200 kids going out to a venue to hang out and watch a band, which is something we grew up with.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what you did.
That's such a cool thing. I really would be very excited at the prospect of that happening. And that's going to lead for our industry, you know, like, you know, for whether in the selling musical instruments industry or teaching or whatever you're doing,
absolutely,
doing sessions. Like I do sessions for people all the time who are like wanting lead guitar, and they want like, you know, pro musicians.
It stirs up activity, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it
leads to more opportunities for everybody.
That's right. And we've got a beautiful facility at Skips Music with, you know, clinic rooms and rehearsal rooms, and you know, there's so much more that you don't see when you're just on the sales floor, that, you know, I'm excited to put to use. And I mean, we've already put it to use with a bunch of great clinics, and you know, like Weekend Warriors, our adult performing music program.
Yeah.
You know, with those rehearsals. So I'm really looking forward to getting that rolling with the young folks.
So tell me about this speaking at the high school. What was your experience? What did you say to the kids, and what was the reaction and reception from the kids?
So my core message was, follow your dreams, unless you suck.
Thanks for listening to the Rock Guitar Confidential Podcast with Ryan and Scott. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Now back to the show.
like Kurt Cobain or Post Malone.
Then just kill yourself right now.
In that case,
I'm sure that went over great.
In that case, definitely do not follow your dreams. No.
Look yourself in the mirror. Am I going to be Kurt Cobain?
Right. Like, okay. So yeah, right. Ask yourself, am I wearing a Nirvana shirt today? And then
watch them be all baffled by why you despise Nirvana so much. It's so funny. I love that. Like, what? There's this complete complex there was bafflement. Like, what do you mean?
You know what?
Nirvana's like one of the great bands of all time.
You know, I got to watch a video of the advanced class doing their performance, and like those kids can really play, man. Like,
well, David's their teacher. It makes sense. You know what I mean?
That's right. Well, and David had a notable teacher and mentor. Who was that?
I have no idea. I got no concepts at all. Didn't learn anything from me, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So the guitar teacher over there is one of Scott's former students, and since he's great, I'm not surprised.
The apple falls quite far from the tree in this case.
So he was really great. So, you know, basically I just it was all about thinking about, you know, careers in the music industry, and then making sure the kids understand what Skips Music is. Right. Yeah. So, you know, a lot of them like hadn't heard of us. Right. So, you know, just explained our history. Right. We've been around since 1973, a pioneer in music.
And you had to
retail.
explain them that there was a time called 1973. And they were like, what are you talking about?
Oh, dude, there's anecdotes. I've got one in particular, Scott, like just for you.
Okay. I wasn't around in 73, by the way. That's way before my time. So
you're gonna love this. Right. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, of course, I'm interactive. You know, how many people love guitar? guitar? And everybody raises their hand, right? And how many people want to love their job? And they raise their hand. And then how many people want to, hate their job? And then there's like always that one smart. Yeah, then there's always that one smart ass kid. And
I'm already working on the heavy drug habit, so it's me.
And I was like, dude, if you want to hate your job, I guarantee you will. Congratulations. And then
there's
move
ample opportunities for that.
Yeah, there's ample opportunities, man. Like skies. And so that's probably how I weeded out the like Post Malone kid.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
Oh man, do you have any face tattoos? That's a giveaway right there.
There was a lot of hoodies, man. It was raining yesterday. So
that's true, yeah.
but
Which is
no,
weird. Yeah.
man, the kids were, dude. The student who came out to greet us in the lobby was wearing a Kiss 1977 World Tour shirt.
Oh, nice. So is he totally there, dude? He remembers seeing Ace Frehley?
Oh, it was the best, man. Yeah.
Even though he's only like 15, he somehow was there in 1977.
We were talking about how like yesterday it was cold and rainy, and I was like, yeah, dude, a couple days ago it was hotter than hell.
And he was like, what? This is just
And no, he got the joke. It was great, which was like the only joke I told that day that anyone got that was under 40.
Welcome to being older.
Yeah, totally. So I base, so in terms of like finding a place, I believe there's a place for everybody in the music industry.
Would you argue that you believe there's the children of the future? Do you believe that's true?
Yes, give them a guitar and let them show the way.
Oh my God!
Yeah!
Yeah!
Woo!
All right, hopefully everyone out there gets that.
Yes. Yeah. So
yeah. By the way, that's exciting. That I'd rather that than here's your DJ gear or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, here's a computer. You're now an EDM artist.
Well, you use the term artist loosely.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So so all these kids are fired up about guitar. So I just explained, Skip's music.
That's such a good reason for optimism, right there.
It's such a good reason for optimism.
And there actually is, if you actually dig around, there are actually some really good bands that made up by younger people.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the dudes like in their 40s and 50s, like dudes who are like 20s, 30s, who are actually making great music. And whether I don't think Tim Henson's awesome, but he's a great guitar player and he inspires a lot of people to play. So that's good.
I'm totally okay with Tim Henson being a great guitar player that I just don't like.
Man, the things he does with the Muppets too, just unbelievable.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, the Fraggles was really Pete Henson. And and I have
It's so funny. Tell that to a 20-year-old, they totally don't understand what the joke is.
Yeah, I know. Ooh, I've also, this is going to be a good optimistic episode. I just remembered another piece of good news that I have to share with our audience.
All right.
But anyway, so we'll put a pin in that. So,
really? Not going to share the good news?
No, because we're going to have to.
You didn't find Jesus, did you? Because I've heard that before. Oh my God, I got the best news. I just found something out.
I try to temper certain opinions of mine on this podcast.
Good for you. That's good.
So anyway,
I have heard that pitch before. And that's not where it's going, is it?
Yeah, totally. So back to
that
the
guy
with
the colostomy bag on the side of the freeway had said the same thing when I pulled up there. I was like,
oh man, yeah. We all know who my co-pilot is. Anyway, so
dog.
Right. Well, definitely if it's Doggo, she could be my co-pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
And my kitty Yngwie Jamie Elmstein.
Yep, exactly. He shreds.
And he has the best name of any cat in the world.
That's true.
Yes. I really feel like humbly, I feel like I really took the gold in naming him.
Yep. You know who else feels that way? Yngwie.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yes. Malmsteen and Malmsteen.
Really changed everything if you think about it.
You know what's great is every time we take him to the vet, like we have it written down as Malmsteen, and then like the vet technician has to ask how to pronounce it and where it came, and then another person learns about Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's like a fluffy little ambassador for shredding.
Yeah,
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
He's the
actually you could argue that Yngwie himself is a fluffy little ambassador for
shredding. Yeah, totally. Yeah, so especially if we're talking like '90s Yngwie.
Well, even now he's got massive hair now. So he's
oh no, I meant like.
Actually, it's funny. He's aged pretty well. I actually thought Yngwie was going to age terribly. He's actually aged really well. I got to
he definitely turned things around since the whole donut thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that. If you don't know that joke, it's the whole thing. Just look like Yngwie Malmsteen, Dimebag Darrell donuts. That's all he
unleashed the furry on his BMI, and so Anyway, we love all Yngwie Malmsteens and
Yngwie adjacent things. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So so the kids were great. They could play. I told them all about Skip's music, and we're a music retailer, but we also have that's a place where if you worked at Skip's or interned at Skip's, you could build sales skills. Mm-hmm. If you want to work on guitars, we've got a couple of great luthiers, Eric Gutierrez and Scott Gregory, right?
Yep. I don't know Scott, but I know Eric. Eric's awesome.
Yeah, they're both awesome.
Yeah.
Eric and Scott are well. So Scott Gregory is the older
He's got a great
brother of
name.
Michael Gregory.
I know that. He's got a great name. So I've got,
yes,
that's already in the bag. You got it.
Yep. So, but a couple of great dudes, and so we talked about how to pursue luthiery as a career. Well, everybody, I explained what a luthier was.
Yeah.
So we learned that. Talked about our performance programs. Our rental and backline division.
Yep.
So, you could pursue a career in live sound, studio engineering. We need, there needs to be people to run backline, like road crew type stuff, right?
Yep.
You can get your foot in the door in all of those careers and more.
Yeah.
Just by starting off working the sales floor at Skips, right?
Yeah.
Or being
what was
an
the
intern.
reception? Was it enthusiastic? Was it like, oh, that sounds pretty cool?
It was very enthusiastic.
Okay, very good.
Lots of like students coming by to shake hands and say hi after talking to everybody collectively. And dude, and like you didn't have to beg them to play a guitar. Like everybody went and picked up a guitar afterwards and started practicing. It was great.
Yeah, that sounds like a dream. Actually,
oh, I know.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I love these kids.
Yeah,
They're self motivated to practice. So so they were great. Couldn't ask for better kids. So although there was a couple challenges, like one of them, like the only so David, their teacher, set up some questions.
Set him up.
Because there's a projector and stuff, and
okay.
I'll be able to polish this presentation now that I know what to expect.
Okay.
So one of them was like, do you have any fun stories, from working at Skips?
No, nothing fun ever happens at Skips. It's like
or working in the
slog.
music industry, right?
Yeah.
And again, I started at Skips in 1998, right? Like I was like 17 years old, I think. Well, no, I was a little older than that. I was maybe like 19 years old.
That's by the time you sold me
Yeah,
my
yeah.
first Ibanez.
Yeah, I think I was 19 years old. So I was born in 78, but it's in November. So so I think I was 19.
Dude, you're
like,
slightly older than I'm sorry, you're slightly younger than Van Halen 1.
Yeah, that's
which is
right.
pretty amazing.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I was like 19 when I started at Skips. And dude, I've got a wealth of fun and hilarious and happy memories over the years,
Dude,
right?
it's like your whole adult life.
Specifically my young adult life.
Yeah. I mean, that's
So-
to this point. I mean, that's
So here's the problem.
Okay. There's a problem.
Like, none of those stories are appropriate for a high school class.
Well, you got to find a way to
a lot of them aren't, right? Like I even there's some like PG stuff, but even
That's what
then,
you got to do. Go PG. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I wasn't going to tell the story about how like Rich clogged the toilet upstairs, and then I was walking to the warehouse, and me and Mike Rusi, who used to do like all the graphic
Former
design,
marketer,
marketing and stuff. He's walking out of the warehouse. I'm walking into the warehouse, and we see the pipe above our heads dripping. So we immediately lock eyes and go, "Someone clogged the toilet."
Oh, okay.
So we both ran upstairs, the other staircase, like past the guitar department, leading up to the teaching studios where that bathroom was.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so as we were running up that treacherous staircase, our receptionist Lindsay was coming down the staircase, and we looked at her and went, you clogged the toilet. And she's like, no, I didn't. We're like, no, we caught you. It's leaking. All right.
Yeah.
And then we started calling her stuff like Bull Punisher.
How fun for everyone.
And we called her Lindsay Logs. And anyway, so like years later, I find out my buddy Rich actually clogged the toilet and then like escaped through the secret back, like outside staircase.
Scot-free.
Yeah. You free. And then Lindsay took the fall. And so
Poor thing. And you probably question, was her life ruined from that?
Oh no, she's fine.
Okay.
And so what am I going to do? Like tell a bunch of high school kids an anecdote about about clogging the toilet, and then how we I guess these days kind of we were just friendly teasing, but bullied the receptionist.
Yeah, that's true.
That just wouldn't fly. So I actually told the story about how I met Tom Frost. I was actually working at Guitar Player, so I fudged it a little bit.
Okay.
Just to try, and just try to make the connection that the people that you meet doing these things are going to be in your life, for the rest of your life. Like doing, Tom Frost just produced and mixed and mastered our album.
Yeah. And he's been my drummer for 20 years.
Yeah, but the first time I met Tom, he walked into my guitar shop, and then we all went to go see a Testament show.
Yeah.
Me and him and Marty and my trench coat got locked in some dude's Trans Am.
Broken window thing.
And some big dude put his giant boot through the window, and I got my gun home.
That's like such a story. Like, yeah, dude, it's Mike. I think was in the Camaro was we broke the window. It's like, that's such a teenage story.
So the first time I told the story, like it played really well, but then like as I told it to their 2 classes, it didn't play as well because it wasn't really what was necessary. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Probably one more directly related to being on the sales floor or something.
yeah, and I so like
or
I was
teaching or something.
so that was kind of a curveball, right?
Yeah. Damn it,
crap.
David,
You know
gotcha.
what? I mean, I have like a teaching anecdote that's cute.
We'll save it for the next one. You can't ruin it on the podcast. Sure,
Yeah, no, I will, but that's I don't know. I guess that one would probably fly. Well, anyway, so hopefully, we'll be back at Roseville High School like next semester to talk about things and whatnot.
Yeah, very cool.
But otherwise, it was really good. So now here's a fun anecdote. So
Okay.
in the middle of the second class, it started raining pretty seriously, right? Like it sounded like hail, right?
It's
so
really coming down. Yeah.
yeah, so I just kind of stopped what I was doing, and I was like, "Man, wow, it's really coming down out there. I wonder if we're gonna get some help." You know, just small talking with a pause because it was so loud it was interrupting what I was saying.
Yeah.
Right? And then when it died down, this awesome kid in the back of the class, he totally participated, asked questions. Right, there was a lot of participation. It was really great.
Nice. During the precipitation.
Yes,
That's perfect. Yeah.
And so, on one side of the back of the classroom, there's this one kid, and then I've got Mike Snyder, our vice president, and David, the teacher of the class, on the other side. And so the kid volunteers. He's like, yeah, you know what? The weather was so bad. That's why I was tardy today. And I said, but the only thing that matters is, did you feel tardy? And there was just dead silence. And then Mike Snyder just said, I got it. I got the joke. But none of the kids got the joke.
Hot for teacher. Come on. The hell's happening?
And so then I asked, so again, there's maybe 25, 30 kids in this class.
Yep.
I'm glad you're sitting down for this. Raise your hands if you know who Eddie Van Halen was.
And then only 28 of them raise their hands, right?
No.
Okay, how many?
Guess again.
27.
Keep going.
26? It's going to be a while.
We'll be here for a while.
Just tell me, man. Come on. Everyone on the screaming at their podcast thing right now.
We try to keep these podcasts to an hour or a little more.
Yeah. This does not count as quality content. Right?
I shit you not. I got 5 hands.
Wow. Well, that's just shows I think part of why that is because they've definitely heard a lot of Van Halen music. It's still in.
Well, dude, I immediately looked at David and was like, "All right, guitar class teacher."
The hell, man! You're dropping the ball here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
dude, that could be a whole semester.
Yeah, it's. I think Van Halen, that whole time period is something that people either are really passionate about and they really are way into it, or they just completely missed it. But they hear that music though. If you watch a TV, even the Super Bowl ad, they had a Super Bowl ad for I think it was Toyota.
Yeah.
They had Panama, and stuff. They'll have Van Halen music and all kinds of television and movies and stuff like that.
And I think also so I did so the '90s nostalgia is running through the teen. I heard a lot of Foo Fighters and
Nirvana. Yeah.
Actually, no. You know what?
Thank God.
This is the optimism episode. I did not hear any Nirvana.
Korn. People in the Korn.
Well, look, someone could have just been breaking a string, tuning their guitar, and
That's true.
and I would have thought it was a. Korn
there is a
song.
lot of nostalgia for the pop punk kind of era.
Well, there always will be, yeah.
Why? I don't understand why that has to be.
Because it's easy. Because it's easy.
I guess.
And you know what? And girls like it.
I guess that's true. But Van Halen girls like that too. You know what I mean?
Well, they did, but that was pre-grunge apocalypse.
That's true,
right? So I think the thing is that their parents exposed them to all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's true. Because people who are in their 30s now or grew up on the grunge thing,
right?
Yeah,
and as we've all
30s and 40s really,
and as we've all detailed, the main problem with the grunge. Well, one of the main problems with the grunge and Garth Apocalypse is that they shit all over the artists that came right before them.
Yeah.
So it was so uncool, within 1 week to be in the other stuff.
I've talked this before. I can't explain to people how fast it happened. When bands multi-platinum touring arenas band.
Yeah,
and then
I've never witnessed
in
anything
March, and then in August they couldn't even get a club filled.
Yeah, well, that's what Reggie Wu from Heaven's Edge.
Brad from Winger, same thing. They were on the Pole tour, and they were maybe 3 months in, and then all of a sudden it's oh yeah, well we have to cancel the tour.
So
and then not only that, the band broke up. But Kip Winger within 3 months was playing at Borders Books with an acoustic guitar. You know what I mean? That's how quick it happened. You know what I mean?
So these kids' parents, they, so they don't, so that's why the kids don't know who Eddie Van Halen was. Now, if you want to stay positive,
I do.
then those kids, like, they still have discovering Eddie Van Halen in front of them.
They've never heard it. I know, that's true.
Right, so
It's
they
all
get to
new
hear it
them.
for the first time.
Yeah, that's true.
As a guitar player, right?
Yeah.
So that's got to, like, I don't know what that's like, because I heard Eddie Van Halen before I started.
The reason I started playing guitar was because
it's one of the reasons. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, so staying positive on that one. But
Well, then the music is so objectively awesome that people are going to pick it up and it's going to happen.
Now you would be proud of me, because later
I'm always
on,
proud of you.
Oh,
Come
well,
on,
thank
Ryan.
you.
Come
I'm
on,
always
man.
proud of you too. I'm proud of us.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, I have to.
In fact, everyone listening, well, maybe almost everyone listening, we're proud of you too.
Yes, we are.
I'm sure some of you are horrible. I'm sorry.
And well, I have to send David an email with
shout out to David.
Yes, a thank you email to David Albertson with our band's URL.
Yeah.
Because some kids asked.
Yeah.
So they'll hear some X Ages too.
Yep, which is going to change their life, man.
Absolutely.
That's a double, like a weekend. Sit down to the X Ages album and Van Halen 1.
That's right.
That's a good weekend right there.
Absolutely. Just on rotation.
Yeah. Maybe throw in some Scott Allen Project Maximum, Maximum Threshold. That'd be good.
Definitely.
Yeah, that'd be a good thing. That can't hurt. It's,
it could only help. That'd be
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah.
So you would be proud of me for this. So one of the questions I got was, what's a good guitar for heavy music? and my reply was, I'll show you a guitar that's not just good for heavy music, but the guitar that's good for every music.
Okay.
Let me. So now.
Super Strat.
Yep. So I'm going to teach the class about what a super strat is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then David put a picture of a Jackson soloist up on the screen, and I just explained like what the Floyd Rose double locking bridge system. Well, I explained like what's so great about playing electric, like distorted electric rock guitar.
Yeah, but it shouldn't have to be said, but okay.
And how magnetic pickups and overdrive add sustain, and that means you can play a guitar in a way that's you can express yourself in a way that's closest to the human voice and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I explained the Floyd Rose double locking tremolo system, and I told the story of how Floyd Rose was a jeweler in Reno that realized that the nut was causing his guitar to go out of tune, and how Eddie Van Halen started slamming humbuckers into
and then as soon as the Floyd was
bodies.
available, that became a major part of his playing,
And so that's one of the reasons you all need to learn who Eddie Van Halen was.
Because he changed music.
Right.
Yeah.
And the great thing about this guitar is that it can sound like it used to be you had to have a Stratocaster and you had to have a Les Paul.
Yeah.
But if you have a Super Strat, then you can sound like a Les Paul and a Stratocaster all in the same
and
guitar.
stay in tune and use your whammy bar
And stay in
have a
tune.
guitar that's very playable and have access to the high frets and
Woo! Preach it, Scott.
and then
Preach it,
all the
brother Scott.
versatility, every sound in between. You know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
Why does anyone plays like when I see someone with like a freaking Gretsch with like P90s, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? You got a Bigsby on that.
Yep.
Someone needs to beat you to death.
Totally, and then people, and then like as I was telling them about it, like people started getting up, dancing, and and then I had an altar call. I was like, look, if you're ready to invite Eddie Van Halen to be your personal savior, come on up here, child.
All it costs is a carton of cigarettes and some Jack
and he'll
Daniels.
forgive all of your 90s rock sins. Yeah, we did the whole thing, and they gave their life to Van Halen, and
well, he gave their life to them, so
that's right. Yeah. Well, he died for their musical sins.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I
yes.
know.
So man, so it was really moving, and I look forward to us doing it again.
On another positive note, speaking of guitar legends, did you hear the new Satch Vai song? That's
I heard of the new Satch Vai song. I
Glenn
haven't
Hughes
heard
on
it yet.
vocals, and it's got Glenn Hughes on vocals, Satch and Vi on guitar. I mean, that's all I need to say.
Okay,
right
I heard the thing that Sammy Hagar did. With,
that was great, actually.
with Snatch and
It's not Snatch.
and what's his name, and Michael Anthony.
And Kenny Aronoff. Yep.
Oh yeah, Kenny Aronoff. That was cool to see Kenny Aronoff there. Yeah,
well, he's been touring with Sammy since I guess Jason Bonham had some kind of issue with his mom or whatever, and and I guess Sammy's just going to be doing residencies at this point because he's 76 years old.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're getting to that phase.
Yeah.
But he's still
he's
good.
playing. I mean, still playing, and Satch sounds great. And
his voice sounds good. Yeah.
I mean, it's great. That new song was great. I was actually walking in not expecting anything.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, that was freaking good, man. I like
that's
that.
the way to do it, you know?
Yeah, and then the new Satch song, I was like, just hearing Satriani and Vi like in the same band is like a wish fulfillment for my like 13-year-old self.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That kind of like it's just so exciting to hear that.
I'd like to hear like a G3 lineup of Snatch, Vi, and Malmsteen.
We did that. They did that.
I know, but I mean, like I want make an album.
Oh yeah, I don't think that would work, man. Yngwie is just not a team kind of guy. You know what I mean?
He's not. He's a team of one.
Yeah, exactly. He's the one guy who does everything. But I think
there is an I in Yngwie.
I don't want to see a show where like Yngwie's got the whole stage and Satch and Vi are like on this little corner. The drummers just like post this stamp on this other side.
So you know what you're saying is that there isn't a stage big enough for all three of them.
No, there's not. Well, there was. That happened back in the 90s, like late 90s, I guess. Maybe early 2000s, I guess it was.
Yep.
Yeah. But that was,
just as we were coming out of the grunge apocalypse.
It was starting to be okay to be a great guitar player again at that point.
Yes, it was still good to be good at things. So anyway, man. So
that's also exciting stuff. So some of the legends from the past are still going strong.
That's right. And, I look forward to more opportunities to, and you know what, we talked about maybe in future semesters having the kids take a field trip to Skip's Music. I told him, hey, come by the store and like hang out. If you come by, ask for me. Like I'll come and say hi and show you where stuff is, if I'm not with a student. And I don't know. I just think it's so great, man. We got, I know what Skips meant to me when I was young, and, I know it can mean that to other young people. And
and that's,
I just want to pass that. I just want to share that and pass that on.
I think that getting people into things like that are social, like playing music with other people, is really important.
Huge.
That starts happening. Is if even, not only just for the future of music and for music retail and music education, but also just for like, their own mental health, like getting together with other people and sharing something you're passionate about. Also, exciting that kids are passionate about stuff. That's cool. That's something I look at that as a win. I don't care if you're passionate about foosball or passionate about whatever, NBA playoffs, whatever it is that you're into. If you're passionate, that's good. That's the juice of what life. That's why you get up in the morning.
That's right,
You know what I mean? It's because you're passionate about stuff.
So since we're talking about passion, this is a good segue to that other optimistic thing that I'd like to close with.
Okay, this is not referring to Louis Short Studs, right?
No, it is not.
The passion of the short stud that we're not doing this, right?
And that's a perfect example of like a fun music industry anecdote that I can't share in front of a high school class.
That's a good example,
right? Like that totally. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure those kids all know about midget porn. I'm sure they all know.
Well, I mean, we live in the age of the internet, so of course.
Yeah.
Unless their parents were smart enough to put a midget porn blocker on their phones.
Or maybe emphasizer. Like when they push Google, all it does is pulls up midget porn. I'm just trying to find directions to the store. God damn it, why does this keep happening? Who did this to my phone?
Damn it.
I can't unsee this.
Whoa.
Haunted forever. It's like
I was just looking for directions to Starbucks and I got whoa.
Actually, dude, as a parent, I'm telling you, that would be awesome if I could fix my kids' phones where they could only Google certain things. I would just torture them every time. That'd be so funny.
Oh my God, your kid gets up to like he's doing like research for a report in class on his phone, and then whoa!
Oh my God!
Yeah, I'm sure that would do well for his social status in school. Yeah.
I don't think it would actually.
I'm
not in 2025. Not in 2025.
Yeah.
Actually, not in really any time.
So speaking about passion, I've got some really good news.
Okay. I have no idea this is going on. Okay.
An episode or two ago, we started out with me telling the tale of the passion of the Andrew.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so my good buddy, my student, my good buddy Andrew.
At least you thought he was your friend. You didn't really know him at all, apparently.
That's what I thought, right? Yeah. Like look, we've all made bad decisions in our life, right?
Some worse than others. Yeah.
Yes, and I told the story about how he'd been looking at this awesome Ibanez J Custom, right? And he was going to get it, right?
So this is really an update. This is an update.
This is an update, right? Yeah. But then, like, something happened, right? Like he went astray, right? He fell in with the wrong people, made some bad decisions. And he bought an acoustic guitar and brought it to his lesson instead.
Yeah, and what was he expecting going to happen? Just like, what is this?
Yeah, so a couple of weeks, and he just kept telling me, dude, I'm so fucking bored with this guitar. And I was like, dude, of course you are, right? Well, I just want to give everybody an update. Yesterday, he went to Skips. No, not yesterday, but last Friday, he went to Skips, and he returned the acoustic guitar, and he bought the J Custom.
Yeah!
Yes!
That's salvation,
Woo,
man.
All right.
Praise hallelujah.
Dude, I'm becoming like a guitar evangelist.
I know,
guess,
exactly.
right? So congratulations to Andrew there, dude. Welcome back from the dark side.
Man, I'm sure. I guess sometimes you have to, dance to the devil to figure out what's important.
Yeah,
what I
you
mean?
know. You don't know what you got till it's gone. Right, yeah. So,
Long cold winter, baby.
yeah, dude. So he had a long splintery acoustic winter for like 2 weeks.
Thankfully, short-lived before they thought cooler heads got involved and fixed it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And
that's so
so,
true.
so I want to give a shout out to Andrew. Just congratulations, dude, on turning your life around.
Yep. Next thing you know, you're going to be a captain of industry.
I mean,
or
that's
something.
tough. You know what I mean? The first thing is you have to look in the mirror at yourself with your acoustic guitar and admit you have a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And then you
that's
can only
really
fix
difficult.
it if you understand that you have made a bad decision, and you can start making better decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
yeah.
I know, and it's you got to take one day with your awesome new J Custom guitar at a time, right?
Yeah, well, you got to appreciate it, man. Just appreciate every moment. That's the thing. With that
that's
guitar.
right. You have to pick it up every day, right? So that you don't backslide and go play acoustic guitar again.
The silent song of the acoustic,
Right. Yeah.
Start writing songs about your feelings and stuff like that. And
right. So, I'm super proud of Andrew. Now there's a 0% chance he becomes like that douchey guy with an acoustic guitar on the college campus.
Yep. Well, I would say it's probably it's not in zero. It's probably like a 0.001% chance he might become that guy. But it's a non-zero, but it may as well should be zero.
It may as well be non-zero, right? Because
non-zero. It is non-zero, but it may as well be zero.
Well, yeah. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah, sorry, I got.
But I would, just in the.
He's a
just
good
trying to be
dude.
accurate. There's always a possibility,
He saw the error of his ways, and he was humble enough to just bring that acoustic guitar back and admit I made a mistake.
Yep, good for him.
And then take action to rectify that mistake.
Thankfully, the J Custom was still there. I mean, that's a very lucky thing that happened. I mean,
that's right. So he got the gray Blackburst. In fact, so that means that 2 of my students in the last month have become the owners of J Custom RGs.
And that can only mean good things for the future, because that means once you've played a real guitar, then like every other guitar that's not a real guitar is obvious to you.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. So life is good, man. Skip Spotlight series is taken off. We've
Kids
got
are interested in playing guitar.
Yeah, dude.
A whole team of people learned who Eddie Van Halen was this week.
Yes.
I mean, that's
right.
Yeah.
Like at least 30 people in a guitar class learned who Eddie Van Halen was. I feel like I've kind of fulfilled my life's purpose.
What's up with that? Like, how have these kids been taking class for you for all this time, and they don't know who Eddie Van Halen is?
You should reach. Maybe you and I could prepare like a whole Eddie Van Halen course.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you have to. I mean, it have to be a series of courses. It have to be over several semesters.
The total series.
To go through the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Man.
This is the impact on early Van Halen music. This is late Van Halen music. This is the gear impact, how it changed guitar playing, how it changed popular music.
We should just put together like a whole we would probably have to start doing this with the charter schools.
Yeah.
But we could put together a whole guitar appreciation course, like starting with Eddie Van Halen. We could have like our Randy Rhoads chapter. And,
that's the early '80s, kind of when everything started blowing up, right?
And we could like license that out to to other school districts.
Like they do in the
stuff.
Texas school board, that kind of thing. Like this is the
Wait, I thought the Texas school board just forbade like teaching evolution.
I guess that's true too. But I mean, as I've well known, like music started in 1978. So there was before that was like before the Big Bang. No one really knows what was going on before. But in 78, music started. So like
78. So 78 could be like year zero
is 1978, and then it goes forward from there. And then we have the Dark Ages, just like in real human history, like between like 1993 and like 2002.
Right.
There's like the Dark Ages, right?
The dark period.
Yeah, the part where we don't speak about what happened.
The time of tribulation.
And then like around 2003, we started kind of coming from a rock perspective, coming
3, 4, 5, and then it was it was a lot better by 06.
Yeah, but by then rock music had fallen out of favor. So now it was just all over by then. But rock music got better at that point. See, we're already kind of working out. We're like workshopping.
Yeah, we're totally working it out.
You guys are flying the wall workshopping this for you guys. So
anyway, but things to be optimistic about, right? Like so now more kids know who Eddie Van Halen was, and I look forward to seeing all of them at Skips Music. And we've got performance programs that are kicking off and thriving.
And everybody listening, if you have a young person in your life, try and encourage them to pick up a guitar.
Have them come talk to Ryan at Skips, and we'll talk about Spotlight Series, and we'll get them in a band and playing, and,
or just whatever. Get a guitar. Go buy a guitar and start playing, man.
Yeah, and take lessons from us.
Yeah, well, that's fine if you don't. But it's cool that.
But it's cooler if you do.
Yeah, if you want to be awesome, yeah. But
Yeah.
that being said, like, go play. That's good. And then once you get pretty good at guitar, find a drummer and a bass player and form a band, and then maybe force some clubs to start.
Or let us form a band for you.
Yeah, or whatever. Be playing, get playing. That's what I'm trying to say.
Get playing. Yeah, more playing definitely. And then and then last but not least, big shout out and congratulations to Andrew.
Yep, good job, Andrew. You made the good decision.
Yep, thanks for rejoining the human race, my
Yes,
friend.
exactly.
That
It was a close one. You made it through. White knuckled it, but you got through. You know
That's
what I mean?
exactly right,
Yeah.
man. So congratulations on your recovery, and just take it one day at a time, man.
Make sure you talk to Brian, who I assume is your sponsor.
Yes,
right?
yes, I'm a sponsor, teacher sponsor.
Yeah,
yes, that's right. So if you ever get a craving, man, you can call me 24/7. I'll talk you down.
Yep, exactly. Here's King Diamond. Listen to this.
That's right. You're not. Yeah, just take 2 doses of Andy LaRock and call me in the morning.
Yep, exactly. That being said, thank you guys so much for listening to the Rock Guitar Confidential podcast with Ryan and Scott. Please make sure to check out our website for our band, which is xagesband.com, for links to our social media and updates on what we're doing musically, and actually hear our music. That'd be great. What's that website again, Ryan?
That's www.exagesband.com.
And there's links to our social media there. Please make sure to follow us on social media, and please make sure to like, rate, and subscribe to this podcast. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for listening.
Peace.